Ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good afternoon. I'm Laurence Litrico with Esri. Welcome to the How to Become a Superstar for Utility in 2 Weeks webinar with SSP Innovations and Middle Tennessee EMC. Joining us today are Bill Meehan with Esri, Nathaniel Everett with Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation, and Sky Perry with SSP Innovations. Bill Meehan heads the worldwide electric and gas utility marketing practice for Esri. He's the author of 4 books and numerous papers and articles, and has lectured extensively and taught courses at Northeastern University and the University of Massachusetts. Prior to joining Esri, Bill was the Vice President of Electric Operations for a major electric and gas utility. Nathaniel Everett is currently the GIS Technical Lead for the Schneider Electric ArcFM Designer System at Middle Tennessee EMC. He has 13 years of IT systems development experience. Sky Perry is the founder and president for SSP Innovations and has provided technical architecture, development, and management solutions for GIS-centered implementations since 2000. In addition to providing keynote talks for conferences, Sky regularly sits on industry panels and contributes to utility and telecom publications on GIS best practices. Sky's work has focused specifically on Esri and Schneider Electric GIS projects for electric, gas, water, and telecommunication utility verticals. Sky earned a BSBA in Decision and Information Sciences from the University of Florida. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Bill Meehan with Esri.
As Laurence had said, I used to work for the power company, and my observation has been that in power companies, people have these ancient rituals or these practices that they've been doing for years. We kind of combine that with high technology. One of the practices or the rituals that I've seen over the years is that people like to print out maps in gory details, and they love to stick them on the wall. One of the reasons they do that is for 3 things. They want to share, collaborate, and communicate information. And the problem with that, of course, is that the hard wall kind of limits the amount of collaboration and sharing and communication that you can do. This is not new. For years and years, people have put maps on walls like in caves for the same 3 reasons: sharing, collaboration, and communication. And again, the same problems about a real hard wall is that, people have a hard time collaborating with people outside the cave, just like your field forces. So this is really the idea of a GIS that people have been thinking about for a long time. That GIS is a system of record, meaning that we keep all of the data about the GIS kind of combined, kind of inside our companies, maybe inside our cave if you think about it that way. And that's what the GIS, if I said what people would think a GIS is, it's a system of record, all your poles, wires, transformers, valves, and all that sort of stuff. The problem is, and again, just like the idea of sticking on the wall or the cave or something, is that is your authoritative knowledge reaching everyone? And in a recent poll, we found out that no, people don't think that authoritative knowledge is reaching everyone. In fact, that's one of the problems with GIS today. It's kind of contained within its own little self. And so the ArcGIS has created a platform for allowing that authoritative knowledge to get out to everyone. And when I think of a platform, I think of Facebook. It's the same thing. It's not a system of record in a sense, although you could argue that, sure, Facebook stores pictures of people and there's kind of an archiving of records, but that's really not the key to Facebook. Facebook allows sharing, collaboration, communication. That's what platforms do today. They reach out beyond the data that's that's stored, and they collect information and they share information. So modern platforms, and as I said, ArcGIS is a platform now, not just a GIS application, have certain characteristics like they respect identity. They know who you are. Some platforms like Amazon, when you go to order a book, they know what you've just ordered in the past. Work on any device, anywhere, anytime. Leverage external data. So in the case of GIS, leveraging external data might be bringing in crime statistics from, say, a police department. Say if you're going to send a crew into maybe you perceive a dangerous area, you could figure that out well in advance. Or maybe understand what's going to happen during a flood, bringing in flood information. Or just simply bringing in tweets and YouTube videos, finding out maybe people are thinking of something. You ought to know about it if you're a power company or a water company or a gas company. And also share data to other platforms, just like Facebook and Twitter. They share each other's platform data. So you can share data in a platform. Allow consumers also to be providers of information, just like Facebook. Consumers, I mean, actually, Facebook doesn't even provide any content. That's being provided by the people who use it. Always on. You never have to think about whether a platform is on or off. It's always on. And scale automatically because millions, and in some cases billions of people use it. And have security built in. And sometimes enable hybrid deployments. And Sky's going to talk about a bit of a hybrid deployment of the ArcGIS platform a little bit later in the presentation. Gartner has kind of used this diagram to say that GIS follows this nexus of forces within IT using mobile. I mean, mobile is really going to be key. And it's not so much that it's separate from the rest of IT. It's just part and parcel of the overall IT platform, the cloud, leveraging the cloud in a much more dynamic sort of way. And social. We talked about social media. Imagine the ability to take social media information, bringing it into your GIS. And the information is what's contained in your system of records. So GIS isn't just that yellow or that orange piece down in the lower left. It's about, it's more than just that. It's more than a system of record. In fact, you could argue that GIS is not just a system of record, but a system of engagement. That's what the ArcGIS platform allows you to do. And what is the ArcGIS platform? Well, this is it here. It has several different pieces. So below the line is a server on the left. That's really where your system of record lives. That's where all the poles and wires, all that stuff lives. As I talked about earlier, bringing in other content like crime statistics or flood information or demographic information or income information. That comes from online content, or maybe somebody else is publishing information that would be very interesting to you, like customer loading information that we're going to see a little bit later. So above the line is the portal. Well, that's the infrastructure that allows you to communicate all of this information to everybody. That's the essence of the ArcGIS platform, the portal. And above the line are the devices. This is really where people communicate with the system of record and with the online content and with everybody else, either using a desktop or mobile device or over the web. So again, we all use maps, but now we're going to use them in a new way. In fact, the idea of a platform is that it's easy to use and you can create things very, very quickly. Like, for example, you could create an application in 2 weeks. You could stand up something, even actually in a shorter period of time. So you can be a superstar. Just because you're in the GIS department doesn't mean that you can have a significant impact on the organization to really, really create something quite transformational. So you can be a GIS superstar in 2 weeks. So I like to think of the 3 A's as how the platform kind of energizes and increases the execution of the utility. Gaining access, just having access to information. As simple as that sounds, it's quite dramatic. Get people access to data, specifically location data. Bringing awareness. Kind of the answer to the question, what's going on right now? And also having analytics. Analytics tells you how things are done, how to prioritize information. Where do I spend money? What's going on? What are some of the patterns that are showing up? So that's really the platform. We're going to get into a little bit more detail, and so I'm going to turn it over to Sky.
Thanks, Bill. Now, we really appreciate being here today alongside of Esri and Middle Tennessee. Before we jump into the details, I just wanted to touch on quickly who SSP is. As it notes here, we focus on electric, gas, water, and fiber verticals within the Esri area of practice. And within that, we really do product implementation, customization of the platform, and then systems integration to other systems, all focused around those verticals above. So if you sum that up, it's really services around the Esri platform. So when we're talking about ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS, the new platform components, we really focus on bringing those to the electric, gas, water, and fiber verticals. So thanks for having me again today. My name is Sky Perry, and I'm the founder and one of the principal consultants here at SSP Innovations. So, when the Esri platform came out, roughly 4.5 years or so ago, we embraced it very early on to learn the technology and to really determine where Esri was going to go with this, because we really had a feeling that it was going to take off, and it's taken a little bit to get there, but we're really seeing the larger market embracing the new platform today. When that came out, we really saw our opportunity to educate and to demonstrate how this new technology could be utilized within our existing customers, but then also to take new customers and introduce technology to them, GIS-based technology, utilizing the new platform. So some value drivers here for the base platform that will really make it work for you as a customer. Looking at ArcGIS Online and Portal, Esri uses the term initial operating capacity. And that's really about getting a quick stand-up of ArcGIS Online or Portal to allow you to start utilizing this technology. Once you have it in place, you can do a lot of patterns very quickly. You can expand the usage of the platform throughout your organization easily. But getting it stood up in the first place is what we call initial operating capacity. If we talk about how we get there, we often work to start and look at initial use cases that could be used by the utilities or telecoms to utilize platform, and we use that as a catalyst. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But then getting it stood up, initializing your organization, and that's your organization within ArcGIS Online or Portal. Getting that stood up and configured, and the configuration through and through so that all the different components work together and that it's quickly usable. And then security, we don't want to downplay security at all. It's really an important item. And as you begin to talk with your groups, your internal IT groups, you'll find that this is very important because they typically have some stricter requirements around exposing some of this data that has historically been in the back office out to new users and to new groups, potentially out through the internet. Really, though, we're able to address those security concerns and keep your data secure in the back office while still using the technology to take the maps to any user on any device. So we can handle those. But you want to do it right the first time. You want to ensure that the security components are in place and that you're able to utilize the full extent of the platform. So beyond that, it really allows you, the customer, to focus on what you are meant to focus on. And that comes down to solving workflow and business challenges. We can help you get the solution stood up so that you can focus on where are you going to take this? How are you going to expand GIS within your organization? We'll utilize our industry knowledge to help you with that, and we'll also allow you to leverage your existing investment in GIS. Many of you have implemented an enterprise geodatabase, ArcGIS Server, ArcGIS Desktop. Many of you have 15 years or more in using Esri software. We want to leverage every dollar you've spent over these years to really allow that to drive platform usage within your groups. So we're going to enable that existing offering using platform. It does not invalidate any of the work you've done to date. So why a GIS Superstar? Why is that in our title? Many of you have seen this slide or this picture here, familiar pictures of the Map Girl and Map Man from Esri. And it's kind of a fun way to represent sort of where we're heading in the industry. But when we take a step back and look at why we're talking about GIS Superstars, it really has some value to it. At the basic level, when we started talking to customers, become a GIS Superstar, embrace platform, there was some pushback initially saying, well, if we take GIS to the larger group within our organization, we may lose some kind of value. The GIS department may lose focus for all the value it's provided in the past. But we really want to challenge that idea, and we see just the opposite coming true, that when you embrace platform and you take this mapping capability to the larger organization, it actually turns you into the superstar because now you're able to take tasks that maybe previously took months of development, maybe even years of development to get new patterns stood up, especially when we're talking mobile, and now you're able to do those in days, maybe even hours. And by being able to be responsive to your organization and utilizing the platform to do that, it really elevates your position within the organization, and that's what makes you a GIS superstar. So it's really about getting over that hump and embracing the technology, and it will really take your department to new heights within your organization. We're seeing this everywhere that we've done this. So becoming a GIS superstar isn't hard. That's what we're going to get past here. We talk about Esri, the concept of portal, and this is the key exposure point for the platform to let you become that superstar. Now, lowercase portal, lowercase p for portal, that implies Esri's ArcGIS Online, and this is their SaaS, their software as a service offering. It's hosted centrally by Esri at arcgis.com, and that can be your portal. It doesn't mean we're having to put your data into the cloud, right? We're keeping that data secure behind the firewall. However, we're using ArcGIS Online as the portal to allow your users a centralized point to get access to all of the different informational products that are exposed from your back office. So that's the hosted version of portal. And then we turn to the uppercase P, the uppercase portal. And that's implying a product which is Portal for ArcGIS, which is very much ArcGIS Online. However, we're now taking that and installing it on-premise on your own server infrastructure, and you're hosting that internal behind your firewall completely. Now, we might still expose that portal out to users via the internet, via an installation that allows the internet to consume it, but you're hosting the infrastructure that is through and through driving the architecture of that solution. Now, we've had a lot of questions about ArcGIS Online versus Portal, which to do, which to use, and when to use them. And that's an important topic to address. What we found, though, is that Portal for ArcGIS is obviously heavier. You have to have hardware. You have to have the installation of the software. You have to maintain that, patch it, upgrade it, and general support around it. But it does provide much easier integration into your back office as far as things like Active Directory authentication and such. So maybe a little bit higher cost, but it provides additional value. But in many cases, when folks say, hey, we want to do Portal, we always say, take a step back and let's talk about why. And if it's around data security or anything like that, we've really found that ArcGIS Online as the SaaS offering will meet all of your IT department's requirements around security for a much lower implementation cost. So we can help you review those options. The end result, though, is those are your two keys to get involved with the platform. The same result from either will enable your traditional GIS, again, leveraging that existing investment in new and powerful ways, allowing you to embrace Esri platform. So how can utilities take their first steps with Portal, be it ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS? We really talk about a three-pronged approach to this. The first is to expose new data to the utility. And it's not necessarily new data because that data has historically been managed by you in your enterprise geodatabase in the back office. We're really talking about taking that data, exposing it out through ArcGIS Server and Portal, and making it available to new users. So you're taking that back office data and pushing it to new users on new devices. So you're instantaneously getting your iPad usage, your iOS usage, your Windows tablet usage, all via out-of-the-box Esri applications that are free to download, consuming the portal to get to the data. So we can do that right off the bat, and that is transformational in many ways, just to expose the back office data that has traditionally been accessed through ArcMap or perhaps even through a web browser. We now have all these new apps that can get to it. So once you get past exposing that data, we always drive to collect new data from the utility. There's a lot more data points around the utility that we can now bring into the back office, into the GIS, and most of our data is geospatially enabled. So we can collect that, be it a field inspection, an asset management record, damage assessment, whatever those things are, we can bring those in very easily. Now, when we've done these collection patterns in the past, these often were fairly advanced custom applications we had to implement, a fair bit of custom code there. We're now doing these straight out of the box using the platform to get there. So when you have that new request come in, you can stand this up and turn it around in a very agile and iterative process for your users, which again elevates your position to superstar level. And finally, we don't ever want to leave it with exposing and collecting. There is a lot of value there. But if you really want to make this work well within your business, we want to empower that data. So whatever data you're collecting, and don't just store it on the server, that's great, but let's find a way to drive business decision-making off of that data. And we talk about doing that, it's most often through geoprocessing, integrating it to another system, systems integration, driving some workflow, or maybe it's just a report we're driving off of that data, but something that will change the way your company does business based off of that data that's being collected. And if you do that, we're tying it back to real business value, and you win every single time with this. So, summing up the pattern we just talked about, expose, collect, and empower. How are we going to get there? How do we want to get over that hump to get ArcGIS Online or Portal stood up? We talk about finding your pattern, and that's your first pattern, and using it as a catalyst for platform. So when we started working with platform in the first place, it was a lot of talk about, wow, let's just use GIS everywhere. We can put it in every department instantaneously, and it'll be there. That turned out to be a little bit harder of a pitch to really make happen because you're trying to do too much at one time, bite off more than you can chew. What we've really found is a good way to get this stood up, and you'll hear this in Middle Tennessee's story, is to choose a single pattern that will add value to your organization. Again, exposing data, collecting new data, empowering it some way. You don't have to challenge and get the world taken over in the first day, but you do want to find one that will drive enough value and use that as a catalyst, because that single pattern can drive getting the infrastructure set up and enabled for platform within your organization. And once you have that, you're over that hump, and then you're going to have the power of the platform at your fingertips to take the next 1, 2, 50, 100 patterns, stand those up, and expose GIS throughout your organization. But don't try and hit it all the first time. Use the one pattern to get there and find it. Use it as your catalyst. So we've implemented patterns like this at utilities and telecoms across the country. And at the end of the presentation here today, I will provide several ideas for you other than what you'll hear from Middle Tennessee today. But right now I want to introduce Nathaniel Everett from Middle Tennessee Electric, who's my personal map man, my personal GIS superstar, who's going to tell us about the pattern that Middle Tennessee used as the catalyst to have platforms stood up within their organization, which has now allowed them to take platform to new levels of GIS within the Middle Tennessee organization. So with that, Nathaniel?
Thanks, Scott. So Scott has just asked me to talk through some of our, one of our projects that we're really proud of. It's our transformer loading report. And just a quick introduction to remind you who I am. I'm Nathaniel Everett, and I work for Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation, and we serve the counties around the Nashville area. I'm the GIS technical lead, and I oversee the ArcFM designer product. And for those of you who may not know, ArcFM is a utility and telecom extension for the Esri-based product, and I'm in the IS department. So, as I mentioned before, the project was a transformer loading report project, and some of the business drivers that we had that initiated this project was that we all know that transformers fail regularly, and at that point we have to send troubleshooters into the field and replace them. And a lot of times at Middle Tennessee Electric we tend to oversize our transformers, and we do this because we want to provide reliable, we want to ensure reliable service to our customers. But sometimes it ends up that we're actually oversizing them too much, and then we may get into a situation where they're undersized as well. And this report was developed to allow us to better manage those assets. And obviously, if when we don't manage our transformers correctly, then we see inefficiencies in our network and there's a cost impact. So engineering approached us and they asked for us to basically deliver them a report that they could utilize to determine whether transformers were overloaded or underloaded, and they wanted that to be shown in a seasonal basis, and then also for some of our more expensive transformers, the VG17, they wanted it to be reported on a monthly basis. They also provided us with engineering calculations for the winter season, the summer season, and then specifically for those expensive VG17 transformers. And this was a mock-up report that we worked with them to create to kind of understand exactly how they wanted the data to be displayed. So some of the business challenges that we faced, and we had faced all along, which is why we didn't already have a system like this in place, was we didn't have a relationship between or a database relationship between our service location and our transformer feature class. But we did have a network traceable relationship in GIS, and then which SSP actually, you'll see in the upcoming slides, helped us utilize that to create our data relationship. One of the other challenges is that we have our load data, but it's in our SAP CIS system, and we did not have access to that before this project in GIS. And then we needed to figure out a way to present the reports and the maps to our users in the field. And this is just kind of a mock-up of our data model, and it's between the transformer and service location that we needed to create that database relationship. So once we decided that we wanted to move forward with this project, SSP was already our custom code vendor, and so we engaged with them to help us develop this system. And working with them, we broke the project up into 3 phases. The first phase was we needed to get that database relationship created. from our service location to our transformer. Then phase 2 was we needed to be able to load and aggregate the transformer loading and usage information on a monthly. We loaded on a monthly basis, and then we aggregated on a weekly basis. Then we needed to, phase 3 was reporting and visualization. So I'll go through those 3 phases next. So to break down the steps that we took for the new relationship, we had to make a few schema changes, which were pretty straightforward. We just added to our service point, we added a company number A, B, and C, as you can see highlighted in green there. And company number for us is the term we use for our it's our asset number that goes with our transformers. And then we needed to develop a script that would trace our electric network and actually load this data into these new fields so that we could have that database relationship. And SSP was able to help us create this relationship in a way that did not have an impact on performance, considering that we're in a complex versioned environment. And then thirdly, we had to create auto updaters that would maintain this relationship as transformers were moved or replaced. So phase 2 was choosing the SSP nightly batch suite to actually aggregate, load and aggregate our new data. So the batch suite does 3 things for us. It takes, on a monthly basis, we receive load data, and we load it into GIS. But on a weekly basis, we take that data and we re-aggregate it to make sure that it's as up-to-date as possible, and it's aggregated by month and by season. And then finally, we had to create summary feature points for these transformer locations. And then the next slide kind of just gives you a visual look at what we have in ArcMap today as a result of this project. So you can see that you can dig down into the actual raw meter data, the load data that we get from SAP. And highlighted in red there, you see that for this transformer, it was the KW value was 86.4, and because it's a 3-phase scenario, we take that value and we divide it by 3. And you can see we have a load divider set up here that determines what that division is going by. And that was direct guidance from engineering that they said we want to break it evenly if it's a bank scenario. And so then in the middle screen there, you can see in green, you can actually see the percent loaded for that transformer. And I think that's what they're all trying to get to. The very bottom field, the VUG17, that just defined for us whether it was one of the special transformers that we really handle in a little bit different scenario. And then the third screenshot there shows the bank and how it breaks out as far as load percentage. And you can see that for this scenario it was evenly loaded, but it's possible that they would not be evenly loaded based on the wiring setup. So phase 3, we had to develop or come up with a way to present this data into a report, and we used just out-of-the-box SQL Server reporting services, and I think it's worked quite well. It allows the users to query, just do some basic queries on, is this a VG17 transformer, is this summer, winter, or maybe they want to look at a specific month and then year, and then they can define at what ranges they want to view as far as how it's loaded. This data, as you go through it, is very similar to the screenshots that we just went through. These links under company number, you can dig into the actual transformer. And it goes down and basically gives you the same information in a spreadsheet format, and you can look at lots of transformers at the same time. And then you get down to actual meter number, and we have customer name there because that was important for us as well to understand maybe like the what type of customer this transformer serves. And then finally was the visualization. So we wanted to be able to quickly look at a map layer and see if a transformer needed attention, if it maybe was approaching needing attention, or if it was perfectly running smoothly. So we used green, yellow, red, and we're able to actually break that out by phase. So you can see in a later example that these colors change by phase. The other thing is that for summer, we allow our transformers to be loaded to 140%, but in winter, they can go a little bit higher to 160 based on guidance from engineering. And then the VG17s, once they hit 100, we want to take some action. So the next part was we decided that we have all this in place, and it would be really wonderful to use ArcGIS Online to expose this in the field. So it gives our users a lot more decision-making power when they're outside the office. And this was, I think this was definitely an added benefit that has caused the whole system to be more accepted and valued. So now we're going to show you a demo, and Scott's going to talk through how that looks.
All right, so as Nathaniel mentioned, the troubleshooters in the field were the real target of this, this implementation. So they can use any device. We're using iOS here with an iPad, of course, but they could be using Android or anything that has an Esri consumption app, out-of-the-box applications to consume this data. So the key was that we can publish one web map with this information that was published from the back office, and I'll open up the Esri basic ArcGIS app, and you can see I can browse in here through, and at the most generic level, my groups. So within the groups, I can go in and I see a MTEMC transformer load group, and I can get to the map that way, and that worked very well. But the same web map is accessible to all the other Esri applications in the same way. So they really like to use Collector a lot because of the interface. Collector was an interesting one because it actually requires an editable layer to be part of your web map. So we didn't have one, so we just added a sort of dummy editable layer to make it exposed here in Collector to allow us to use the interface. So you can see that same production transformer map, and I'll open that here. And right off the base, we see that this is an overview of the GIS. And this is that leveraging existing office data, right? So taking the existing GIS, and in this case an ArcGIS stored display, and exposing that out through to new devices, to new users. So that was the first part of that pattern of expose. So we brought it out. Next, we wanted to use the search. And searching was really important to be able to search on asset numbers. And we actually indexed roughly 25 different feature classes within the GIS every week to create asset locators that could be searched in a very simple search. So if I'm going to search on a given number here, you can notice it searches across feature classes. I didn't have to do anything different, and found both a light company number and a transformer company number. And I can easily click on either one of those very easily here. So generic, easy searching was key. And of course, the out-of-the-box components of directions to here. I could find directions here in Collector, or even open up Esri's new Navigator application, which would give you more turn-by-turn directions to that location. All pretty seamlessly, and this is all out of the box. And that was key. So let's search in on the Franklin substation. So I'll go and do the FRA search. It'll zoom us over to the Franklin substation. And you can see as I zoom in, all my layers turn on as I get closer to that substation. And I'll just zoom a little bit to the north of that substation, to a location with some interesting area for some different transformers by phase. So you see all the background data coming in, the ArcGIS data there. But more importantly, we see this new layer that's been added to the map. And you see coloration by individual phase. And you see the three phase on the left and the green A phase on the right. So at the base level, as Nathaniel mentioned, we have these color codes. And if I am a troubleshooter, I can geolocate based on GPS and see this visually. If it's green, I really don't have anything to worry about. If I do want to dig deeper, though, I have the ability to do that right in my mobile application. So if we first just click on this A phase transformer, you can see it flies out with the details. And I can see that the A phase transformer company number 61449 is loaded at 9.78%, and that load occurred in 2015 summer. I can see the most recent winter load, the most recent summer load, and then sort of browse through those details within the panel there. So all very easy to access that detailed information with a simple click. And that was all the troubleshooters needed. This is a targeted application, not something that's very complex, and that was really important. But let's zoom into this other location here where there's 3 phases and take a look at the different phasing here, because obviously B looks to be just fine, but if we had a call on A or C, we definitely would want to look to take action because these show as being overloaded. So if we come in here and we're actually going to click on B phase, looks fine, 42.61%, nothing to worry about, and would not need to upsize that if there was a failure point. But if we click the C, we can see that C phase is loaded at 213%, and that was actually a little ways back. If we look, the most recent winter load was only 199%, still pretty high though. Most recent summer was at 160%, and the all-time max load was the 213, and that wasn't last winter, but that was 2 winters ago in 2013. So we've got historical data from max loads in the past as well as the most recent data. So I definitely would want to upsize this transformer if it was a failure point. On the A phase, we see very much the same thing. So again, in this case, we used an asset search to get to the substation and zoomed over. But if you imagine the troubleshooter being in the field, using GPS to get to the location, and now having this very targeted set of information right at their fingertips, that's what Platform's all about. And this, again, was the catalyst to get Platform in the door and makes these type of applications much simpler to stand up. So I'll turn it back over to Nathaniel.
Okay, thanks, Scott. So the final thing was the business benefits. So what did we receive from this project? And what I think it really comes down to is we were able to empower our engineers and our troubleshooters with new data that they've never had access to before. And then they also have real-time access in the field from any device, and that makes for, or it gives them the ability to make educated decisions on the fly as needed. And then they can also, with the reporting, they can review however frequently they need to their current installs, which may direct them to reallocate their transformers in a different setup. So it equals cost savings, better efficiency, and system awareness, and that really plays well with our mission statement that we have at Middle Tennessee Electric. And then finally, we were able to demonstrate the capabilities to our users of ArcGIS Online. And we now have a fully functioning DMZ, and we're able to authenticate through Active Directory, and so those are our basic benefits. We're also able to quickly release new products, and so through ArcGIS Online. And one thing that we've recently released since transformer loading is a damage assessment application that we're going to use during storms, and actually we may leverage it for use on a daily basis. So I think Scott's going to talk about some of their other success stories.
Yeah. I think summing up before I jump into this, that's really where we wanted to get. We used this initial pattern to stand up Platform, and it has enabled Middle Tennessee to continue on. One of our other partners that is engaged there, True North, has done a damage assessment application, as Nathaniel mentioned, and it really opens up for every new business challenge that comes up. It is now an option to utilize Platform in quick targeted applications to get there. So the catalyst got us to that point, and we're now able to really respond much more efficiently, and that is what takes GIS to the masses, and it elevates the visibility to the GIS department too. So I told you I'd come back and give some other ideas of some other implementations we've worked on just to really kind of get you thinking about what your catalyst will be. So one of the cool ones at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, we've talked a lot about this one over the last couple of years, a fairly large utility. They had to go out and actually do a meter replacement. So they started with a replacement pilot project of 60,000 meters, and now they're gearing up to start on over 1 million meters. And the key point was if they have a crew that's touching every meter location, gas, electric, and water throughout the territory, why not capture some really important data? And the Platform and collector, et cetera, gave them the ability to do that very easily and quickly. So capturing some basic information, but really importantly, images. So now they have a picture of the new meter installation, of course, but more importantly and specifically on electric is a picture of the open meter slot. So what sits behind that meter? They can now assess that from the back office for all types of needs going forward, and this is data they've never had, and it's exposed in an intuitive way. And their field crews really were able to use this application very quickly and easily to grab this information as they touched each one. So reporting, tracking for management, etc. HART EMC, another great example here, field asset inspection. These folks wanted to go and walk through every pole on a cyclical, regular basis. They do it every single year, in fact. So this was a little bit different, where we automatically targeted field inspections by creating field inspection points on the map for HART ahead of time, and they were to be inspected. And it really allowed their crews then to sort of walk pole to pole, select each inspection, fill out the required information, again, take pictures if needed, and toggle it to completed. You could watch the progress throughout the year as that data flowed in. You could report on it. You could use Operations Dashboard on it, and another Esri tool. The key part about making that data actionable was to engage workflow for generating follow-up work orders. So if they found a pole that had damage, broken guys, whatever, a safety violation perhaps, they could drive a report that automatically got sent out based on this data coming in to make that actionable for an immediate replacement or follow-up. So that's another pattern. Third one here, Energy United. They did a simple web viewer replacement. They were actually utilizing an outdated custom ArcIMS application for internal web viewing. So theirs wasn't really focused on a brand new pattern. It was replacing an existing one to get current. So at the end, using Esri's web app builder to build out of the box, but tweaked and configured web viewing applications really worked well for them to expose their data throughout the organization. They also then used basic data collection for field red lines. Just a couple more here. Another utility one out on the West Coast. Burbank Water and Power needed to expose an outage map. So Esri's got a template out on solutions.arcgis.com for doing outage map visualization. So we took that and did some integration on the back end to pull in their Schneider responder data, their outage data, to make that a real-time feed. And it basically creates a layer that can be plugged in easily to their public web map. It doesn't provide all the details on the outage, but it provides enough information on the specific area, as well as easy messaging for the public around estimated time of restoration, or ETR. So again, easy for the back office to use and provides a new critical data exposure point for the public. And finally, I wanted to leave you with two telecom, because we don't want to forget about telecom in the mix here. Insight is a company. They manage wireless all over the state of Wisconsin. They didn't have GIS at all, and they needed a way to get data into a new enterprise geodatabase. So they decided to use Platform for their telecom data collection. So as they implemented this, rolled it out with ArcGIS Online, they're able to then actually use the various applications in Platform to go grab new fiber strands. They're able to go grab new splice locations, new patch locations, new towers, and bring that data seamlessly back into a centralized GIS. They were then also able to use the core platform to load in data as they purchased additional telecoms in the area, to import that Esri data in and merge it all together to that single source of the truth. And finally, a large city telecom, not allowed to talk specifically about who this is, but they used it as a conduit tracking application. Again, they didn't have GIS previously, and they needed something to track their conduit through a large city here in the US. Brand new enterprise GIS installation, and they were using ArcGIS Server in a local on-premise installation of Portal to bring that data in and then expose it out. And one of their key catalyst drivers was that they had additional internal development they needed to do off of it. Again, you can do a lot with out of the box, but in this case, they wanted to use it. And there's great APIs related to the platform. So you've got a whole embedded piece that you can use if you do need to extend it. Again, the key theme is centralized through and through. So at this point in time, before we go, we want to ask one more poll question for you all. And we saw that 84% of you were looking at doing more with Portal and ArcGIS in the next year, and that's awesome. So what is keeping you from doing this maybe tomorrow? What is keeping you from implementing ArcGIS Online or Portal sooner? And your choices there are lack of budget for implementation services, lack of technical understanding, how to do it, what are the ins and outs, a lack of executive buy-in, so up the stack within your organization, trying to get all the approval chain to sign off on it. Security concerns, we hear this one a lot, related to keeping your data safe while exposing it perhaps to ArcGIS Online, or maybe even exposing Portal out through your DMZ. And of course other, because there may be some that we haven't thought of here. So take a moment here if you would, and please just go ahead and select that, and Laurence will show us the results here. All right, so split results here. So in the lead, though, at 26%, a lack of technical understanding. And that's pretty interesting. Following that up, lack of budget, and then other, and then security concerns. So it looks like executive buy-in's coming along. So that's the least selected answer, and that's really good to hear. That means that we're getting folks on board throughout the ranks of the utilities to get on board with platform. But the lack of technical understanding, as we flip back to the slides, is very germane to the conversation today, because that's where you want to get this done, but you want to get it done right. So you want to find your pattern and use it as a catalyst to get that infrastructure implemented. Both Esri, and there's a lot of business partners in the space now that are doing this type of work, let us help you get you to that point. If you don't have that exposure or that knowledge internally, it's not a long project, and that goes back to the 2 weeks aspect of our title. It does not have to be a very long project. Getting the infrastructure stood up is usually very quick, and that enables you to move forward. The key points there are using your best practices for exposing your existing data. Most of you already have that data. Let's get it out, but make sure it's secure. All the components are in place. Make sure it passes IT. Security patterns, the next one, they're very important. But we really have found that the platform supports every major security concern, or gets past every major security concern that your group will have. Do it right the first time. If we had to sum it up more than once, let's not mess around with it and get into trouble. Do it right the first time. And that really can be done 2 weeks on average now. It's a pretty proven and repeatable implementation. And you don't need to worry about that. We want you focusing on how you're going to utilize GIS and push it out to the larger area. So with that, tying it back to Bill's first comment, use Esri platform to allow GIS to become a system of engagement. You focus on that, taking it out. It doesn't have to be the world tomorrow, but you can find individual patterns that will take GIS to new users within your organization. And with that, I will advance here to questions, and Laurence will moderate for us here as we, if any of you have written in questions during the webinar today. Laurence?
We've received a few questions. Thank you, Sky. The first one is for Nathaniel. Did you have to hire additional GIS staff to support your ArcGIS Online implementation?
No, we didn't have to. Once we got engaged with SSP, they were able to stand it up, and since that time, it's been running very solid, and I can't think of any sort of major support issues that we've even had at this point.
Thank you. The next question is for Sky. Do you have to host your data in the cloud to use ArcGIS Online?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that earlier. This is a common misconception that a lot of IT groups are concerned about, that you have to take your data and push it up into the cloud. And while that is a viable option, you need to know that you really don't have to do it that way. You can actually keep your data fully in your ArcSDE enterprise geodatabase in your back office. And using ArcGIS Server, again, behind the firewall, there are secure ways to expose that out. And that's a big part of meeting the IT group's needs and questions around this. Is to expose that out. SSL is absolutely key, meaning HTTPS, just the same technology you use to connect to your bank. We want that same level of security connecting to your GIS services. And then everything's using an authentication and authorization model. So by using that, even if it's ArcGIS Online, that's brokering who you are and maybe what you can do. But once you're in, all that data is still hosted securely between the back office and your device. It never is actually stored in the cloud. So that's a common question that you need to get past.
Another question for Nathaniel. Why did Middle Tennessee EMC decide to implement ArcGIS Online and Portal?
I think that it was kind of a natural progression from our Transformer Loading Report project that we saw opportunity there to really push this system out into the field and give users more connectivity with ease. And we also wanted to demonstrate, as Scott's talked about, that once we had that initial investment of standing up the system, that we can, with relative ease, push out new applications that empower our users even more.
Thank you. Another question for Sky. I'm trying to do this myself. Can you talk in more detail about the specific steps you took in the 2 weeks project to get this up and running?
probably not enough time to go through all the steps here, but I can certainly just do a quick overview. But you're first looking at understanding your back office data, and ArcGIS Server is the exposure point for that. So getting a ArcGIS Server stood up and exposed, connected to your back office geodatabase is first the key point. Next, you want to look about how that data can be exposed outbound. So this is really the important security part, where we're usually putting a implementation into the DMZ, your demilitarized zone, and that's what exposes it to the internet. But it's really a brokering box, and there's a lot in there that allows that DMZ box, which uses a product called Web Adapter, which is ArcGIS Server Web Adapter, to connect to the ArcGIS server and expose that data securely. But making sure all the handshakes are there, and it definitely heavily involves SSL certificates, and does go a little bit beyond GIS, or maybe quite heavily, because you're getting into the Microsoft IIS or Internet Information Services components, getting that all put together. And once you get beyond that, that gets the data exposed, then you're really focused on setting up the ArcGIS Online organization, which is creating your groups. Again, Esri puts a lot out there, so there's the utility and telecom groups that you can suck in, be you electric, gas, or whatnot. Gives you example groups to stand up, and you can use that as a starting point. Exposing that data, creating your web maps, and then sharing them with the groups are kind of the follow-on steps. And then usually making sure that you all, as the consumers, understand how to use that and can focus on standing up new patterns, be it exposing data or collecting data very quickly and efficiently. So that's kind of a really quick overview. There's a little bit more to it, of course.
Thank you. The next question goes to both of you, Nathaniel and Sky. How did Middle Tennessee EMC show each phase on the map? Do you model phase transformers as points?
Nathaniel, I'll let you take that one.
Okay, so, and I may lean on you actually. So I think that each phase is not an actual point, isn't that correct? It's all done in that symbology, and
yeah, that is right. So this is pretty standard data model there at Middle Tennessee, where there's a single transformer bank point on the map. When Nathaniel talked about that one application that actually creates that visualization layer, it's an aggregated visualization layer weekly. There's actually a piece in there that will split out if you have an ABC transformer three-phase bank. It'll take that when you have three individual transformer units or company numbers, assets there. It actually does split them into 3 points for the purpose of visualization, but that's really just the visualization layer. So you're never managing the data, and Middle Tennessee, to be clear, does not manage the multiple points on the map on a daily basis. That's something that's created purely for visualizing for the troubleshooter. So back to sort of that targeted implementation for a set of users to utilize the data.
Thank you. Next question. Have you received much IT pushback when implementing platform?
Daniel, you want to take that one?
So I would say no. I think that every change that we've asked them to make, maybe opening a port here or there, helping us set up the DMZ, it didn't seem to me that the requests were anything unreasonable, and it seemed to go pretty smoothly. Scott, I don't know if you have any other perspective.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, they are a very well-versed security group there at Middle Tennessee. They wanted to know all the details, and they had questions around it, right, to make sure we were following it. But that was one of the key aspects. We did many whiteboarding sessions / review of the individual ports that would be open between servers, and talk about the firewalls. Firewalls always have very specific end-to-end points between two IP addresses, and they wanted to make sure we understood that so that they could feel that it was being secured in a way that they were comfortable with. But yeah, it was really about making sure we were on the same page with them, and then we did not receive the pushback. So they really did get engaged and supported us throughout the entire process, but wanted to know what was going on.
Thank you. Does the portal for ArcGIS Online address data security considerations of Middle Tennessee EMC?
Daniel, I can kind of talk to that. Interestingly, Middle Tennessee has done a hybrid approach, is what we call it. So they use ArcGIS Online for certain components, but they also have portals stood up internally. It addresses, again, one of the main reasons you might go with portal is if you need a more tight-knit integration between your Active Directory or LDAP user base and the actual portal, in this case, the full-blown portal product. So it would address it there. It allows you to manage it all on site. Whereas ArcGIS Online, you can broker it to Active Directory. It's a lot harder to do, though, to be completely honest. But generally, you'd have, again, users created in the cloud with access there, but the data is kept securely behind. So it depends on what your security concerns are. I'll be quite frank, though. Whenever we have folks that say we need portal, I always take a step back and ask why, and make sure you understand the implementation patterns. Because if IT is telling you need it, often you can review the real reasons, their security concerns individually, and can really help them to see how your data can be kept secure behind the firewall while using this pattern, which is very similar to many other patterns in outside of the GIS arena. So we've got some videos on our website and such if you want to see that, but that's kind of what I would say about it.
And Scott, to add to that, I don't think that our implementation of a capital P portal was related to security concerns. It was more related to that integration with Active Directory.
Perfect. And we see that as a real driver as opposed to security.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end of our session, so I'll be asking one last question. What is involved in setting up portal with a capital P? Is it straightforward or custom coding?
There is no custom coding, so that's the good news. Straightforward might not be quite right, to put it quite that way. There's a lot of intricacies, and there's several additional options you really need to know when you get into the portal world, including something we call federation of ArcGIS Server and using a hosted server concept within ArcGIS Server. But setting it up, getting it connected to Active Directory, there's a lot more steps there that, again, if you're using the SaaS offering, ArcGIS Online is already done for you. So no custom code, to be clear, but it is one of the, there is some complexity involved to getting it stood up and doing it right so that it's going to operate as expected.
Thank you very much. Well, that ends our webinar. Thanks to our presenters, and thank you to all of you who attended. Enjoy the rest of your day.